That's right. It's time once again to activate the famed Anomatron 6000, our patented machine that definitely wasn't developed in affiliation with Dr. Wondertainment. We swear. After recalibrating, rebooting, and hitting restart, our infamous specialized supercomputer is ready to bring you all manner of improbable scenarios. We'll simulate encounters between the SCP Foundation's various anomalies and any other character from any other universe you could possibly imagine. Here's a question for you. What do you think would happen if SCP-096, the notorious Shy Guy, ran afoul of someone he couldn't just kill for daring to look at it? What if the Scourge of the Underworld, Battler of Demons, and the Devil himself set his sights on SCP-096? Well, we're about to hit the button and discover the outcome of SCP-096 versus the dreaded DoomSlayer. So, you've heard the old philosophical debate about a tree falling down in the woods, and whether or not nobody being around to hear it brings into question if it actually happened at all, right? Well, let's reframe that one a little. If an interdimensional rip in the very fabric of the time-space continuum opens up in an SCP Foundation secure facility and nobody is around to witness it, does a 6-foot-tall, 360-pound hulking killing machine still emerge to slaughter everything in his path? It turns out, yes, he definitely does. Horrified screams and the loud bang of shotgun blasts rang out through the hallway as Foundation researchers ran for their lives. The Doom Marine had just been unceremoniously dropped out of a portal into a strange and unfamiliar environment. Mere minutes earlier, he had been awakened inside a sarcophagus within a facility on Mars in the year 2148. Unfortunately, Doomguy hadn't had the best start to his day, given that the base he'd woken up in was being overrun by the forces of hell itself, thanks to a rogue scientist opening up portals to the underworld and allowing all manner of demonic abominations to come pouring through. So naturally, when another portal brought the armor-clad Demon Slayer to a site run by the SCP Foundation, the intensity of battle had led to the Doomslayer believing that the unsuspecting staff were actually all demons in disguise. And to him, the only good demon is one he got to send back to hell in the most brutal fashion imaginable. He wasn't going to stop until he'd torn through wave after wave of Foundation personnel, thinking perhaps if he killed enough, he'd be returned to his previous locale for more demon killing. As the Foundation dispatched its security forces and mobile task forces to take down the unstoppable force of carnage decked out in head-to-toe green armor, it seemed nothing they could throw at the Doom Marine was enough to take him down. A hail of bullets rained down on him from the MTF's weapons, ricocheting ineffectually off his protective plating as he continued his assault, remaining tireless thanks to his immense physical conditioning. The SCP Foundation tried and failed to contain Doomguy. They assumed him to either be a new, undocumented anomaly or a violent and unhinged maniac from the Church of the Broken God, given his armor resembling cybernetic augmentations and machine parts grafted to his body, along with his arsenal of advanced weaponry. But there were no enhancements, no augmentations made to the Doomslayer. He may have once been mortal, but centuries of killing demons had allowed him to transcend ordinary human physiology. He did not tire, never lost strength, never needed to eat or drink, and was near enough immortal. Yet among all the chaos that was unfurling, a solitary researcher had just managed to slip out of the Doomslayer's reach. He ran as fast and far as he was physically able. The mobile task force troops were getting eviscerated, and the Slayer could easily tear through the whole Foundation. Then, fleeing for his life, the researcher had an idea, either a stroke of genius or total idiocy, and a risky move either way. He would send an anomaly on the Doomslayer. He turned to the nearest containment cell, a windowless room with a heavy locked door. Hurriedly inputting his security clearance code, the researcher heaved the door open and covered his eyes with his arm. It wouldn't have been his first choice of SCP to send into battle. SCP-096’s cell was the closest. Lumbering out of its containment chamber on its misshapen, elongated legs, SCP-096 scanned the area. Alarms were blaring. It was loud and frightening to the timid, albeit terrifying creature. It reached up to cover its ears in bewilderment. Not that the researcher who had freed it could see what it was doing. For one, his eyes were still covered, and for another, he was already dead, thanks to the Doomslayer barging shoulder first through a nearby wall and raining debris onto the nearby researcher. Beneath the visor of his helmet, the Marine breathed heavily, panting but not tiring, as he looked at the pale, skinny creature in the corridor before him. It was clutching the sides of its head, its huge jaw hung open. As far as the Slayer knew, he was making progress. His attack was working. He'd killed enough of these demonic imposters that they were starting to reveal their true forms. Although in all his years of bloodshed and being a scourge to the denizens of hell, he hadn't quite ever seen a demon that looked like the Shy Guy. Not that it mattered to Doomguy. Before long, it'd be dead like all the rest. The towering, stick-thin creature turned to face the armor-adorned warrior and shrieked, immediately overcome with anguish, having a full-blown breakdown as it often did whenever someone looked at it. As the demon killer stomped down the corridor towards it, the Doom Blade, a long, sleek, razor-sharp edge extended from the Slayer's gauntlet where it was mounted on his wrist. He reached down and yanked the ripcord on his chainsaw too. He was long overdue for a glory kill. But before he could strike at SCP-096, the Shy Guy moved with impossible speed, faster than even the Doom Marine himself. It zipped behind the encroaching Marine, moving quicker than he could perceive. 1 second SCP-096 was crying and wailing in front of him, then not even a full second later, the creature was towering over Doomguy from behind. SCP-096 gripped the Doom Blade and snapped it with ease, like breaking a twig before reaching its other long arm down and pulling the chainsaw from Doomguy's hand. The motorized blade was still running as it clattered to the ground, cutting a hole through the floor and falling down into the lower level of the facility. Enraged, as he very often was, the Doomslayer reached both arms back behind his head and gripped the elongated torso of SCP-096. The virtually immortal killing machine hurled the creature over his head with ease, thanks of course to his immense strength. Doomguy could lift objects far heavier than most ordinary humans, and carry heavy weapons without tiring. He had even grappled hand-to-hand with demons. Throwing the Shy Guy down the corridor like hurling a basketball was no trouble for the spacefaring slaughterer of Satan's spawn. Screaming and howling in pain, SCP-096 crashed to the ground at the far end of the corridor, tumbling over itself thanks to its long limbs before landing in a confused heap. As the Shy Guy reoriented itself, struggling back onto its feet and standing up at its full height, it was instantly knocked back down as the force of something struck it. Bearing down on SCP-096, the Doom Machine charged, his signature double-barreled sawed-off shotgun drawn. It was hardly leaving a scratch on SCP-096's pale skin, despite the moderate amount of damage the weapon was capable of. 2 shots would ring out, reeling the creature but not harming it. Then, by the time SCP-096 managed to recover from the blast, the Slayer had finished reloading in time to open fire yet again, even as the Doomslayer raced nearer, closing the distance between him and what he thought to be another demon for him to kill. The shotgun seemed to have little effect against the Shy Guy at close range. Stowing the weapon, Doomguy put all of his focus and energy into his charge, heavy boots stomping against the ground as he raced towards the Shy Guy, still stunned by the latest shotgun blast. Before the creature could steady itself, this time it was struck by another force, a heavy object barreling towards it. The Doomslayer shoulder barged SCP-096, sending the pair of them crashing through the nearest wall. They burst into a neighboring room, with the Doomslayer keeping a single-armed grip around the Shy Guy, while repeatedly delivering vicious punches to its gut with his other hand, not once relenting. SCP-096 screeched in pain, clawing at the Slayer, but unable to tear through his impenetrable armor. As they crashed through yet another wall, SCP-096 did something it rarely ever did. In fact, maybe something it had never ever done before. It ran away from someone that had looked at it. While the creature was deeply insecure and so self-conscious that it would kill anyone who saw so much as a photograph of it, it didn't often feel afraid. But the Doomslayer, this muscle-bound killing machine that had brutally butchered actual demons, was so imposing, so threatening, and so effective at dispensing painful punishment that he scared the fight out of SCP-096. Sobbing with terror, the creature zipped away using its anomalous speed, trying desperately to put as much distance between it and the Doom Marine as it possibly could. But therein lay the problem. No sooner had SCP-096 gotten away from the Scourge of Hell than the creature immediately felt the familiar pull. Whether it was an inescapable compulsion to kill everyone who looked at it, or the fact of the Shy Guy's biology, it could only distance itself from the Slayer for a few seconds before it reappeared next to him. From the Doomguy's perspective, it seemed like the creature was intentionally disappearing and reappearing, using its teleportation-like speed to evade a volley of his attacks. SCP-096 came at him again, stuck in a loop of trying to attack the Doomslayer for looking at it, to immediately regretting that course of action and fleeing in fear of its hulking, heavy weapon-toting target. Doomguy drew every weapon he had in his arsenal, launching a barrage of high-explosive ordnance from his rocket launcher to try and kill SCP-096. The resulting damage practically reduced an entire wing of the Foundation site to rubble, but still couldn't kill the Slayer's opponent. Meanwhile, in the moments that the Shy Guy temporarily forgot his own fear for the Doomguy, it managed to rush towards him, swiping the Marine's various technologically advanced armaments out of his hands, before instantly remembering why he was so scared of the green armored force of destruction and dashing away. Doomguy's supply of weapons had all but depleted. Neither he nor SCP-096 were getting tired out by their constant back and forth. They were locked in a stalemate, until the Shy Guy tried to get back to its cell. Zipping away once again, it cowered in the corner, reaching for an old worn-out paper bag that had slipped over its head. It sat down, trembling, rocking back and forth in a fetal position. The Shy Guy was terrified. An overwhelming, debilitating fear gripped it. Fear that became pure dread as the sound of heavy boots began to stomp closer and closer. Kicking the steel door off its hinges, the Doomslayer walked into SCP-096's cell, carrying something huge in his hands. It was one of the most devastating weapons Doomguy had at his disposal, capable of unleashing untold destruction, the BFG 9000. Without remorse, not caring that the creature seemed to have retreated and was cowering away from him, the Slayer raised the powerful weapon and fired an enormous ball of green energy. The blast engulfed the entire room, tendrils snaking out from the energy projectile, causing additional damage to the surrounding area until there was nothing left of SCP-096. Now for another showdown brought to you through the Anomatron 6000. Go and check out Mandalorian vs. SCP-610, The Flesh That Hates. And could Homelander's ego crush the SCP Foundation to see a superpowered psychopath go up against the Foundation themselves?